Welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast about the movies and characters that make us feel seen. Today is a first here on our show. We are talking to a cinematographer, or a director of photography, if you like, and we will ask her about the difference between those two terms in a second. She is Kristen K2 Correll, and her latest film is the funny and moving My Old Ass, which is in theaters now and stars Maisie Stella and Aubrey Plaza. My Old Ass is K2's second feature with director Megan Park, following 2022's The Fallout, starring Jenna Ortega and Maddie Ziegler. Kristen Correll, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
First of all, is there anything else that people need to know about you before we get started? You have, of course, a very long career. Those are just 2 credits in a very specific capacity. What else do the people need to know?
You can check out Parachute, directed by Brittany Snow, that is available on Peacock. That came out couple months ago, so that might be a fun one.
She was really heavily on socials pushing that one out. It seems like that was a film very near and dear to her heart.
Absolutely. It's a very personal film to her. I think it's not as, well, I guess The Fallout's not very fun either.
But what impressed me so much about The Fallout was that it is sprung out of the rest of the story of these 2 teenagers is sprung out of a mass shooting at a school.
Correct.
That event takes up the first 5 minutes of the movie. And then we essentially spend the rest of it kind of in the bedroom of one of these 2 girls where they come together in the wake of this and realize that they're kind of grieving individually. And then they start grieving in a sort of adjacent way together. And
correct.
The movie never... the catalyzing incident is the most grievous thing you could possibly imagine. And the movie handles it in a very grave way, but it also does not become tragedy tourism. And it really, I thought, deftly handled this thing that could veer into an exploitative level of tear-jerking in mining that event, or perhaps going back to it over and over again in a way that starts to feel like, all right, I don't need to be reminded of how terrible to feel about this. And it's just an incredible story of 2 young people exploring, in a coming-of-age fashion, this generational blight that an entire demographic of kids has had to become adults, learning with this kind of pain and this kind of fear.
You pretty much just nailed it. I mean, I don't have much more to say. You did it, which is great, and it's a wonderful thing. But you're correct. So well as a writer and director is being able to have really kind of comical beats and light humor and kind of all of that kind of thing in the wake of something very tragic and difficult for people going through things, you know?
Well, and so this is the second My Old Ass for Megan Park, also The Fallout for Megan Park. Tell me about the collaborative relationship between a director and the DP. Is it we connected over style, we connected over references, we connected over sort of film preferences? Where does that kind of creative partnership take seed for you with her?
I met Megan shortly after I had graduated AFI through a producer that I went to AFI with. He was working at Pretty Bird, and Megan was one of their directors, and she was going to be directing a music video, and this producer that I had gone to school with, Lial, he recommended me to her, and we met. And one of the ways we like to describe our relationship, it's like the 2 kids that you don't let sit next to each other in class because it's just totally disturbing.
Right, yeah.
You know? And from then we just started rolling with each other, doing music video after music video. She sent me The Fallout super early when she first wrote it. I was like, oh my God, this rules. I have to shoot it, you know. Our relationship, both professional and personal, we're very close. I'm so, so grateful to have found someone to work like that with. You know, you always, especially as a DP, you kind of want to find the directors that you roll with and continue to build a catalog with. And because the shorthand and everything becomes so much more fluid. And especially when you know each other so well and you know each other's styles, you can already kind of anticipate and predict things that they might or might not like. And it's just like it becomes so meshed together. So after the fallout, you know, My Old Ass happened pretty quickly after it came out, after the fallout came out. She like turned the script around, like within a year we were making My Old Ass. And I was like, I remember her first saying to me, oh, I read the script and I was like, this rules. And of course I'm crying every time I read the script and every draft she makes. And I'm reading it. And she's like, okay, cool. We're going to go. They're like going to set it up. I think it's going to be in Canada. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Whatever. Like this shit doesn't happen this quick. And it did. Right. It happened very quick. Wow. And it was unbelievable. And especially because we're shooting in Muskoka, Canada, in Ontario, 2 to 3 hours north of Toronto. So, and it's supposed to be during the summer. And there's like such a short period of like time that will work, because then it'll just become winter or it's too cold. Like the leaves start. But while we were leaving in, I think, early September, we wrapped, and the leaves were already starting to change and starting to wear jackets. Like, you're cut off. Like, it's very quick, the season.
Hard out, guys. Hard out in September.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, no one's getting in that lake anymore. No, we're done.
Well, it looked incredibly enchanted the time that you were filming while you were there watching the movie. I was like, wow, is this heaven?
Maybe. Could be.
Maybe. Well, for me, for the folks at home, director of photography, cinematographer, what are the nuances between those two? And where are they interchangeable? Is there a place one is applicable and the other is more so better suited? Tell me about it.
I mean, maybe I'm an idiot, but I don't think there's a difference between them. Like, I don't know any difference. I think it's the same exact position. Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay, great.
Okay. That's my job, and I'm pretty sure it's just the same thing. I hope there's nothing nuanced about it, because I've used both.
No. Great, because I always feel a bit of insecurity not wanting to, like, interchange one for the other and, like, be disrespectful to what the occasion might call for. It's flexible from now on.
Yes.
My self-consciousness has been absolved. I thank you for that. And now let us get into the character discussion. You have chosen one of the most layered options, I think, in the history of feeling seen.
Cool.
You have chosen Pee-wee Herman. And when we asked, oh, well, is there a specific role? Are we talking Big Adventure? Are we talking Playhouse? And the answer was Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So tell me about your first memory, your first exposure to Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I have to admit that when the question was asked, like, pick a character you feel seen by or whatever, like, Pee-wee as a character as a whole, for me, is, like, the answer. Now, I had said Pee-wee's Big Adventure because it was like you have to pick a film, but really it would be more Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Okay.
But Pee-wee is also Pee-wee and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just that character to me is unbelievable.
There's a lot of things about me you don't know anything about, Daddy. Things you wouldn't understand. Things you couldn't understand. Things you shouldn't understand.
I don't understand.
Okay, so what is it? What is it about Pee-wee?
First of all, I've loved Pee-wee since being a tiny child. I mean, I would watch it.
I grew up with Pee-wee's Playhouse. I was right there.
Oh, yeah. I'm every Saturday morning with my sister watching Pee-wee. And, you know, I watched it again as an adult many times. Don't judge me.
Never on this show. No.
No. But I think that Pee-wee is one of the most free-spirited, like, inspiring, creative, weirdo, genuine, like, degaff. Mm-hmm. I just watch Pee-wee in awe. And, like, everything is just so, like, blah, blah, like, just... oh, yeah, this is not a visual medium. This is a podcast. People aren't going to see my facial expressions. But your loss.
100%.
There's just something so authentic about this and freeing about this character to me that, like, I admire and look up to.
Going back, like, putting on Big Adventure, which, my God, that was a house favorite movie. My mom loved Pee-wee. I loved Pee-wee. And I'm grateful anytime I get someone who picks a movie from, like, the 90s to talk about, like, movies from, like the 80s, 90s, and sort of how impossible they feel now. And watching this, like, going to, like, the dinosaur, like, sculptures of, like, the desert outside LA and filming there, going to the Alamo, like, Pee-wee goes to the Alamo. Large Marge haunted me my whole childhood.
Some night, huh?
On this very night, 10 years ago, along this same stretch of road, in a dense fog, just like this, I saw the worst accident I ever seen. There was this sound, like a garbage truck dropped off the Empire State Building.
Like, watching this now, like, I loved it as a kid, and, like, you watch it as an adult, and you realize what Paul Reubens is doing as Pee-wee is virtuoso level work.
Dude, I'm telling you.
This performance is, this character, like, this is obviously operating on the level of working for kids.
I honestly have chills. I have chills.
I can't blame you. Like, I was watching it, like, this is stellar. Like, this is obviously in its broadness and its big colors, and the Playhouse aspect of it is it's like aimed at kids. But there is a whole, like the greatest Pixar movies, there is a whole several layers on top of everything that is aimed so squarely at adults. It's shocking that it works for children.
Absolutely, especially the Playhouse, the TV show. If you rewatch that as an adult, it's shocking. How adult that show is. Like, shocking.
Wish? Did somebody say wish?
Cowboy Curtis did, Zombie. He needs a new pair of boots. Would it be all right if I gave him my wish?
Sure it would, Pee-wee. But you know, you only get one wish a day. Are you sure you want to?
Yes, I'm sure. Doing something for someone else will make me feel good.
All right, then. One pair of cowboy boots coming up. What size?
Size 12, double E.
Boy, big feet.
Well, you know what they say.
No, what?
With big feet, big boots.
I feel like the character of Pee-wee, it's like you think of sort of Jim Carrey at his comedically best, and how, like, his movies are really incredibly successful, like, you know, the Ace Ventura run kind of thing, Liar Liar, those kinds of movies. They were really successful, and when you watch it when you're younger, it's like, ha ha ha, look at the silly things that Jim Carrey can do. And then you watch it as a grown-up and you're like, look at the physical gifts of this performer, that this, everything else hinges upon. This person's delicate mastery of every muscle in their face and level of intonation they can muster with their voice. And I was like, I was just sort of dazzled watching Big Adventure and remembering how much I love watching Paul Reubens be Pee-wee Herman.
I mean, I believe that you keep saying Paul Reubens, which is like, I know that's him, but like, I think Pee-wee's real. Like, I don't, it's such a well-formed character, and it's such, I mean, he plays it so believably. Like, I believe this is a person who exists. God, that's mentally ill. Call the therapist. But
No,
like,
it's because like there's not really a precedent for it. Like you don't watch like, oh, I don't watch many things and think like, oh, this reminds me of Pee-wee Herman. It's such a singular performance that it feels like, well, this is how I feel about how good the special effects look to me in Transformers movies. I'm like, well, it's because they found robots. Like these look so good. Like these fights look so good between the robots because they found fucking robots to fight each other, and Michael Bay filmed them. And this is like, well, Pee-wee works because Pee-wee was on Hollywood Boulevard and someone found him and was like, you should have a show in a weird playhouse.
Yep, where you're like, I don't know how he gets all of his money. I don't know how he builds all of his inventions and his, like, I don't know, but I don't care. It just exists, and I believe it, and it works. Like, I don't know who's taking care of, oh wait, Dottie's taking care of the dog while he's gone. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
though.
Dottie is looking after the dog that he has full conversations with.
Also, it's like kind of funny because Pee-wee is just so genuine. Like, he's almost a prick, but then he's also kind of polite, but he's also like a crazy person. But he just owns it, and he has no shame about anything, and I admire it so much.
Well, it's the thing I was wondering about was when you were watching this, did you feel like you were relating to that as like, I do have this confidence in me and this makes sense to me how this person is acting? Or did it feel like an aspirational thing of wanting to get to that point from where you were when you first started like clocking memories of Pee-wee and as you've rewatched as a grown-up?
I mean, I wonder how much of an effect that Pee-wee's had on me that I don't even realize because I was like a super fan as a kid. Because I mean, I've been labeled as kind of odd at times, which I am not ashamed of. But maybe that is why I feel seen by Pee-wee, you know? Or was that the way you would say it? Feels seen by him?
Yes.
He's not seeing me.
That is how we would, in the parlance of our show, that's what we would say.
Yeah. It's just like someone who's just like, and I think is cool. I think he rules. Like, I think being that weirdo is so cool.
Well, and it too, like, there is a sort of audacity to Pee-wee where, like,
oh my God,
like, even if he gets, like, even if he feel like you can tell he's in over his head, Pee-wee always has the confidence somewhere in him that he can get himself out of whatever jam he's in. Like, he gets trapped in the biker bar in Big Adventure, and his solution to getting out of that is, I guess, charming them with a dance in like disco men's heels to the song Tequila on the top of a bar. Like that Pee-wee's like, if I do this, it will be so mesmerizing to these scary biker men that
who
they'll
are
like
honestly planning on killing him.
Yeah, that are not gonna want to kill me anymore.
Break dance!
And yes, it's like a silly movie, and it's like, let's come up with a bunch of silly situations for a silly movie. But that is genuine to the core of Pee-wee. That any situation, he thinks a rich kid stole his bike. I say kid, it's like watching. It's just such the surreal construction of a Pee-wee movie where, like, you watch him interact with, like, adults who are children because he is an adult who is a child, and, like, how they get in, like, kind of playground spats. Him and Francis, his, like,
oh my
definitely,
God.
like, latently homosexual rich boy neighbor down the street kind of thing.
Morning, Pee-wee.
Look, Francis.
Today is my birthday, and my father said I can have anything I want.
Good for you and your father.
So guess what I want?
A new brain.
No, your bike. Oh, what's so funny, Pee-wee?
It's not for sale, Francis.
My father says everything's negotiable, Pee-wee.
I wouldn't sell my bike for all the money in the world. Not for $100 billion, $1 trillion.
Then you're crazy.
I know you are, but what am I?
You're a nerd.
I know you are, but what am I?
You're an idiot.
I know you are, but what am I?
I know you are, but
He
what
like
am I?
breaks into his house and tries to drown him when he thinks he stole his bike. And like you said, Pee-wee's kind of an asshole too. But
Yes,
like he also
he's
will
kind
run
of a
into a
prick.
burning pet store and rescue every animal inside, even the snakes.
Come on, let's go.
As that scene was unfolding, I was like, oh, he's about to collapse on the ground screaming, holding snakes. And that's one of the things I think is funniest that has ever happened in a movie.
Yes, and I also think that's one of the most terrifying things also. I can't believe he did that. It makes, I want to, but I love, oh God. And I laugh out loud when I watch Pee-wee to this day. Because I think it's so funny and cool.
And I think it's something too where it's hard to, because you watch movies from like, you know, earlier eras, and you have the sentiment of like they don't make them like they used to, but it feels like with Pee-wee, I feel like you can't even say they don't make them like they used to, because like when did Pee-wee make sense? Like when did it make sense for people to create the milkshake that was Pee-wee Herman and for Paul Reubens to play it the way he did? It just feels like a sort of lightning bolt in time that got caught in a jar.
I don't know the origins of Pee-wee. Was it?
No.
Did the show come first?
I am going to have to refer to producer Marissa on this one to come in with some supplementary info, as I don't have the answer. But I also love like the ways you can see Tim Burton in it, like when Large Marge like turns into a demon. It was like, oh wow, I just saw Beetlejuice, and this feels like a character like for 2 seconds that I could have seen in that movie. So it's nice to see. To feel that kind of like familiar, a kindred spirit of weirdness between Tim Burton and Paul Reubens and Pee-wee Herman.
So good.
Now, did you feel like when you were young, or perhaps when you were getting into this work, like, did you feel like the arts were a proper conduit for the weirdness or the oddness that you had perhaps been associated with? And was that something that pulled you toward the arts? Was perhaps standing apart from the crowds around you?
Well, I grew up around this. Nepo child alert.
Got it. Okay.
My dad, before I was born, he was a cinematographer. And then once I was born, he was making his way and transitioning into television directing. So I never knew him really as a DP, but like it was one of those things where I think that's where his like love, he would have wanted to stay a DP, but he also wanted to stay home and be a father. So being able to direct television enabled that. But I knew what a DP position was very early on, and I was drawn to it immediately as a kid. So I think that being on the set and because I would always go to work every chance I could, and like being on the set is actually someplace that I found very comforting. I mean, you've got the plethora of people from all walks of life on a set, you know? So I have to say that I always felt comfortable and wanted to go in this direction.
What was it about the camera that pulled you into it? Why that?
Dude, this is so lame. I hate myself for saying this. It's just such a natural instinct for me. Like, oh God,
really?
I literally hate myself right now. It just comes so naturally. Oh my God. Like, shut up. Like,
no, I think that's really interesting because, like you said, I mean, that's an interesting like sort of path of like the nature or nurture thing. Like, you didn't grow up knowing your dad as a director of photography. Like, when you got the chance to go visit him on set, like you saw him as a director insofar as you saw him professionally. But like the idea of like the family business going into the family business, like obviously we grew up around it, we gravitate toward it, but like you had just like this natural like in your bones itch to do that thing.
Yes. And like, you know, we always had video cameras and stuff like that. Oh God. And this of course, classic story. Yeah. You know, I always was making movies at home with my friends, and then, you know, the iMac came out and I could start making my movies on iMovie and really just stepping up. But like, unfortunately that's true.
Yeah.
Like, ew, I know, but that's true.
Like, cliches are cliches for a reason. Like
I know.
It's because it's happened enough times, and it's a formula that works clearly.
I mean, kind of, but I just, like I said, I just watched a recent video I found of me probably at like 10 years old doing MTV News, my own MTV News. And
Awesome.
and it's so embarrassing, but so cool.
Are you doing like are you doing like a Kurt Loder voice? Like, are you doing that kind of deadpan delivery?
But my voice is like really little, and like, 'cause I'm like a little kid, and it's really high. And I'm like with one of my friends from the neighborhood. And like, this is MTV News, and we have like a globe and like spin it, and it's like. And it's a camera that's clearly just like on a tripod that we set up, and we're just like talking about like Stussies and Rusty Pants or something, or like Jankos or something. Like, it's so wild and embarrassing.
I mean, that was, I mean, Kurt Loder,
oh my God.
Norris, I'm forgetting Norris's first name, Serena Auchul, getting up
Oh
there,
my
Gideon
God,
Yago.
yes.
These people meant a lot to me.
Yes. How are you just pulling these names out of thin air? That is so good.
Yeah, I mean,
Good
these
for
were,
you.
well, that, like, the MTV pipeline, like, God, remember when it was one? Remember when MTV showed videos? Obviously, I'm old enough to say that, yelling at the clouds. But that, like, I saw, like, every once in a while, Hillary Burton from, quote unquote, from One Tree Hill will pop up, like, in my feeds and my consciousness. And I will remember every time I see her, I think of the fact that her career started because she was a spectator at TRL. And she, like, got pulled from the crowd to do red carpet correspondence from the VMAs, or it was like the VMAs, the movie awards that night. It was like, you won, like, you are gonna do this. And she was so good at it for that one night. They like hired her, and then she later like auditioned for One Tree Hill and got it. And then she is making decade-long syndication money now for the rest of her life.
Oh my God. MTV was so good.
It was so good. And the hours before you went to school, it was like just blocks of uninterrupted videos before they started doing like nonfiction programming. Yeah, I'm grateful I got to grow up at that time.
As an MTV, like as a kid growing up with MTV, though, I would say I can relate this. That it was inspiring with our like old video cameras and shit to make music videos, and that was kind of like the catalyst to start creating things. And like, because you're watching all these videos on MTV and they're not like super, I mean, if you watch a lot of, I mean, there are some that are really, really highly produced, but a lot of them were like shitty, easy, like almost DIY music videos. And like, I think that kids like me were looking at this going, oh, I could do this too. And making our own, like I definitely made like No Doubt music videos with like my friends and stuff like that,
I mean, you had a fisheye lens, you can do anything.
Hello, duh.
If you had a fisheye lens, you could be Mace. Like you could be Missy.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, I thought I was Dave Meyers for sure.
It's time for a break, but we will be right back with more from Kristen Correll. Then I will have one quick thing before I go about the 15th anniversary of my beloved Jennifer's Body. We gotta shout it out on the show. You know it, so let's stick around till the end.
Hello, Internet. I'm your husband host, Travis McElroy.
And I'm your wife host, Teresa McElroy.
And this is a promo for Schmanners.
It's extraordinary etiquette.
For ordinary occasions. Every week, we're going to tell you about a bit of culture, a bit of history, how etiquette still applies in the modern day, all that stuff.
We also love to do biographies and histories of, and, general procedurals, how to do etiquette in today's society.
So, come check it out every Friday on MaximumFun.org or wherever you find your podcasts.
Manners Schmanners. Get it?
My name's Doug Duguay, and I'm here to talk about my podcast in the middle of the one you're listening to. It's called Valley Heat, and it's about my neighborhood, the Burbank Rancho Equestrian District, the center of the world when it comes to foosball, frisbee golf, and high-speed freeway roller skating. And there's been a Jaguar parked outside on my curb for 10 months. I have no idea who owns it. I have a feeling it's related to the drug drop that was happening in my garbage can a little over a year ago. And if this has been a boring commercial, imagine 45 minutes of it. Okay, Valley Heat, it's on every month on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get podcasts. Check it out, but honestly, skip it.
These are the chronicles of the Rancho Equestrian District in Burbank, California. These are the events taking place in my house, around my house.
You had the the bug in you early. Like you were sort of drawn to this at like a sort of calling level. Like this is the thing for me. When did you start watching things as someone who really cared about this enough to make a career out of it and decide and start finding formative texts as a burgeoning cinematographer? Like what were the early things where you were like, wow, I could be responsible for this?
Well, I know a movie that sticks out super, what do you call it when it sticks out super far?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But as a little kid watching A Little Princess, I don't know if you remember that movie.
Yeah,
about that
I
girl
do.
in the orphanage that's like being abused, but her like family's like super rich and they don't know she's being abused. And there's like that she becomes friends with the other servant girl, and like there's like an Indian guy who it's not a dream, right? Like he actually like gives them all the like riches and like the monkey and whatever. It's been so long since I watched The
Little Princess. This is a crazy flashback.
Or A Little Princess, I think it's called. The point is that movie I remember watching as a kid and being like mystified of how gorgeous it is. And I mean, Chivo shot that movie. So I'm glad I had like some wherewithal of like good taste. Like,
damn,
being like,
seriously.
This looks
you
good.
came on and you were like, you know who seems right? Roger Deakins. Like, just not just like I fancy myself a bit of a trash can raccoon, just like culling for the garbage that other people throw away.
A trash can raccoon. But I will say that I was mesmerized by this movie and really affected by the look of it. I don't think I knew. Oh my God! It was directed by Alfonso
Cuarón, a Cuarón and Chivo collaboration. No wonder you were drawn in.
Which is like, oh God! Once again, I hate myself for this. Like, guys, my favorite movie growing up as a little kid is a collab between Alfonso and Chivo.
I wouldn't have called myself a cinephile at the time, but now I know that that's what I was.
Because I definitely I feel like I've seen nothing. That's not true either. I've seen a lot of things, but the amount that like, especially cinephiles are talking about everything, I'm like, I don't know. I've never heard of it. Don't know. No, never seen it. Nah. So it's like, I don't know. But I don't even know if I knew exactly cinematography, but I knew that I was feeling something pretty strong visually. And then I've kind of forgot what the question was, but that movie made a big impact. It was like,
I feel like that's a plenty good answer. And this kind of, as you were talking about, like, I feel like what we know of Chivo, he's a virtuoso, like, you know, The Revenant, Birdman, like we know. And watching Pee-wee, there is that scene where he is with Simone, the diner waitress, and she wants to watch because Pee-wee has a way of like hypnotizing women around them into just wanting to spend time with him.
So wild.
Yeah, because Pee-wee's clearly an asexual who has just no desire for any of it.
Correct. Clearly. Although, I mean, that scene of him playing the convict's girlfriend or wife or whatever is a very interesting scene. Love.
Have you seen this man?
Boy, I've seen better heads on boils. No, I'm sure I'd remember the face.
Honey?
No.
Would you mind stepping out of the car, ma'am?
No, not at all, officer. Some sort of problem?
No problem at all. I just wanted to take a quick look at that cute little outfit you have on.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
You have a nice day.
And like watching that scene, because there's the scene where he gets in the convertible of an escaped convict because he's hitchhiking, and the convict has broken out of prison, and he went to prison for cutting the "Don't cut this off" label off a mattress, and he's being pursued by the law, and there's like a cop coming up, and the convict is like, you know, we're gonna go down guns blazing basically, and Pee-wee's like, wait, I have an idea, and then you have cut to they have located a fake goatee for the convict to wear, and Pee-wee is suddenly in a ponytailed wig with turf bangs, wearing a coat you'd see in a John Waters movie on Divine, like this long, like knee length blue coat. And it was like watching it from a 2024 lens, the frightening nature of a police officer saying he wants Pee-wee to get out of the car. And he's like, "What did I do wrong, officer?" And he's like, "I just wanted to see that cute little outfit you were wearing." It's like, this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is a cop asking a woman to get out of a car so he can see the cute little outfit she's wearing.
Absolutely. But the way Pee-wee is acting as his wife is way more affectionate than he ever has acted towards a female.
Dottie wishes. Dottie wishes she was that convict.
Yes, yes. But wait, what were you saying about the diner chick?
Yeah, no, before he's about to leave, like he's about to set out, he's going to the Alamo to find his stolen bike, because that's a sentence that means something in the context of Big Adventure. And she's like, "Just watch the sunrise with me before I go." So they go into the mouth of a Tyrannosaurus Rex statue in the desert and watch the sunrise. And she's talking about how it's her dream to go to Paris. And she's like, and like starts saying the reasons why she can't. And it's it's a silly moment, but it like an earnest moment of Pee-wee being like, "Everyone I know has a big butt. Talk about your big butt, Simone," in the context of like, everybody has a big butt that is stopping them from doing the thing that they really want to do, from pursuing their dream. Like, the thing you want isn't just going to come to you. You have to make it happen. And Pee-wee lives his life with the edict of basically, I'm going to be purely driven by my desires and go straight toward them at all times, no matter how silly they are.
Simone, this is your dream. You have to follow it.
I know you're right, but...
But what? Everyone I know has a big butt. Come on, Simone, let's talk about your big butt.
I don't know.
Simone, you can't just wish and hope for something to come true. You have to make it happen.
Pee-wee. I've been waiting for somebody to put it to me like that for so long.
And so what I wanted to know, as you were talking about, like, the little princess, was, do you feel like the career you have now, is there a latitude for strangeness in what you do? Or is there, like, is being a cinematographer sort of breaking around with conventional wisdom? Or do they welcome a sort of maverick sensibility of oddity, of doing something new? Like, have you felt like you have been able to adhere to that in yourself and be true to that in the artistic discipline you've chosen?
Well, I think that the kind of film industry welcomes, you have to remember, it's still arts, right?
Yeah.
Even though it also is very corporate at a lot of times.
It's very commerce, yes.
But having said that, or I think being a DP, especially because it's even more kind of this artistic position, is like, I've found it's welcomed oddities and individuals, and not such like you have to be super buttoned up and like, because a lot of creative people aren't just kind of straight and narrow. There are also people that are DP. Like, it could be you could be anything, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I find that entertainment business, you find a lot more kind of weirdos, and not weirdos in a bad way, but weirdos in whatever way.
And I feel like it's about finding your weirdos, like finding your little pack of weirdos to glom onto and find safety in that.
Exactly. And like not all weirdos are gonna get along and like flourish together, but you're like you're saying your pack of weirdos will. But yeah, I also think Pee-wee, like you said, he just goes for it, and like he has a goal and just sets forth. Like I find that to be a way that I like to do things as well, you know? Like you're saying with what is it, Simone, he's like, yeah, but what's the big but? And people do get in their own way a lot of the time. And Pee-wee does not get in his own way. And I try not to get in my own way. So, you know, me and Pee-wee, the same.
You and Pee-wee, brethren. Yeah. What is, like, having worked with Megan Park on The Fallout and now on My Old Ass, and they're both really interesting pathways into a kind of coming of age. And what is it, like, when you guys are doing within your collaborative process and wanting to like create the visual language for these movies, is there a kind of commonality, or is there a sort of thread that like visually you will imbue into the film that you like really want to look toward, that will draw out the emotional threads that we see in sort of both of these movies from Megan? Like how do you communicate through these movies your creative and professional intention as the DP?
I would say that, well, speaking to My Old Ass specifically, we wanted to create kind of like a modern classic, if you will, and that sounds pretentious, but like, because we were looking at movies going into this, like My Girl and Now and Then, The Sandlot, you know, Camp Nowhere, all of these kind of 90s movies that we grew up watching. And there's a feeling that you get when you watch these movies. Like, even I remember being affected as a kid seeing these and like getting kind of emotional and being able to feel the emotion and watching this kind of coming of age. And that was really important for us to make sure that we depicted in this film. So something that was important to me was to honor the story, but also not be like have my work be overtly like taking away from it. Like I always wanted my work, especially in a movie like this, to blend seamlessly. And if you are not, I mean, like if you are starting to feel emotions and you are really kind of like thinking about things within your life and like really kind of like watching and feeling this scenery and everything, but not going like when you watch something like Euphoria, for instance, you can't stop thinking about like, whoa, dude, this is visually wild, you know, which is great. But like, that is not what we wanted to do. We wanted the viewers to be really feeling and going through the emotions with the characters. And so it was more about being kind of invisible with really strong, but being able to visually tell the story in like a very strong way, which is like a lot of it had to do with the environment and making sure that like we had the setting of this film as a character. Because like that plays a big part into like who Elliot is and her family and her friends and her identity and everything is wrapped up in this place. And so just always making sure that we had the environment like sneaking in a way, you know, like having a lot of depth of field so that like everything wasn't just completely out of focus. And I think that we kind of achieved that, to be honest. It does feel like when I watch it, I'm proud, and I personally feel like it does kind of honor these like nostalgic 90s movies and classics that we were like kind of I keep saying inspired because remember I don't have a brain. Inspired by.
Yeah, that makes sense what you're saying. And I have to let you go, unfortunately. We've come to the end of our run, but I wanted to make sure while you were still here that I incorporate you into the fact check that producer Marissa has relayed along. Pee-wee Herman began as a stage show that played on HBO in 1981. Then the movie where Tim Burton joined in. And then the next year, Pee-wee's Playhouse began in 1986.
Okay, so it was the Burton film first.
Yes, you're correct. I stand corrected, God. And that means that...
I was never correct. I don't know anything.
That means if you're an age similar to me, I'm 39, that we had Pee-wee with us our entire lives.
Which rules?
We're better for it. And sure. We all are better for having you on Feeling Seen today. Thank you so much, Kristen. Better known among her industry peers as K2, Kristen Correll.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to talk about weirdness and earnestness in equal measure today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much to K2. You can look for her new film, My Old Ass, in theaters now. And if you're interested in checking out The Fallout, it is still available on Max. It's a Max original, and it is excellent, as mentioned before. And now, that one quick thing before I go. How the time flies. It is 15 years. I am recording this, everybody, on the 18th of September. And the 18th of September, 15 years ago today, we received the gift that is Jennifer's body. Wow. I mean, it's a hallowed day for me as arguably the former scholar of Jennifer's body. Self-declared, of course. The culture was that the movie was commenting on at the time was so deeply entrenched and truly real that the movie itself became a victim of that which it was skewering. It was really, it wasn't like 0% on Rotten Tomatoes here. It was highly mixed reviews, highly misogynist feedback on what did or did not work about it. Megan Fox was sacrificed to the media machine of just misogynist vitriol. And then about 10 years later, a little less than 10 years later, a sort of grassroots movement on the internet started to take back Jennifer's body into the light. I have said before in various places that I just love the movie so much. I didn't realize people didn't like it. In 2009, I think I went and saw it in theaters 3 times. And not till I got on Twitter. You will never be truly aware of how many people want to shit on things you like until you get on the internet. But fortunately, that's where you'll find people to celebrate those things you love with you as well. I didn't realize people didn't like Jennifer's body. So when there became a movement to reclaim it and be like, actually, this is a classic, I was like, why do we need to say this? I thought we all knew this was true about Jennifer's body. We didn't. And there was a piece on the Mary Sue titled something to the effect of, this is not the exact language, of so when are we going to apologize to Megan Fox? And that, to me, is what started the renewed conversation around the movie in earnest, which would eventually lead to what I feel around its 10-year anniversary mark had resulted in a sort of full-scale, within the genre community, so as full-scale as it can get within niche, realization, celebration of this maligned movie, recognizing that it was actually in fact tremendous, that director Karan Kusama, screenwriter Diablo Cody, star Megan Fox, and additional incredible talent Amanda Seyfried, what the tentpoles of that movie brought to the table was something truly special, ahead of its time, and in as such deeply of its time, in a way that it had to come out when it did to be thrown in the trash bin to truly represent that which it was commenting on. So in that way, just the layers and layers and layers of satisfaction and value and return on your time for it, just always piling up with Jennifer's body, always more reasons to love Jennifer's body. And yeah, I'm just really happy this movie exists. I'm really happy that Kyle Gallner's in it, because love Kyle Gallner. Really happy Amy Sedaris plays Needy's overworked mom, who we meet at one breakfast table in the scene. Really happy for J.K. Simmons and his claw hand. For the metatextual, for the superficial, for the trashy aspects and the sublime of it, I love Jennifer's Body. And I am so happy that it has been with me for 15 years, that it has been with so many of us for 15 years, and with others for just a small percentage of that time. But welcome aboard. The umbrella is always big enough for more and more Jennifer's Body fans to stand underneath it. Hell remains a teenage girl, sandbox love, never dies, and to all those Devil's Kettle devils out there, we salute you. And hey, if you've got a spare hour, why don't you go back and listen to our episode with Diablo Cody? Why don't you do that? And that's our show. What a great note to go out on. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FeelingScenePod, or send us an email at feelingscene@MaximumFun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm Jorkru on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. This show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher. And this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported directly by you.